Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Yeah.
The views expressed by J. Michael McCoy are the views of the hosts and guests of Max World Live, and not necessarily the views of Webcast One Live, its staff, its management, the cleaning crew, Dave the electric guy, the guy who cleans the skywalk, the woman who brought in the cookies, the management staff of Hubble Real Estate, the parking lot attendant at Keck Parking, the wait staff over at Miss Kitty's, the coffee crew at Frederick's, the man in the street corner willing to work for food, Rob Spearman, Max Crab, or anyone else of sound mind. Should you be offended, provoked, intimidated, shocked, confused, or just made to think independently, log on to MaxWorldLive.com right now. It's your voice we want to hear in Max World. And now, live from the palatial studios of Webcast One Live, your host, J. Michael McCoy.
Thank you, Michael Libby. It is a little bit after 3 o'clock on a Tuesday afternoon, the 7th day of January in the Lord's year 2014. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and this is The View from a Pew. Our phone lines are open at 1-855-244-0077. Your voice is what we want to hear. As Tom Coates and I gather to talk a little politics today, and it's breaking news, the Senate has passed an extension of the unemployment bill. Now, it still has to go through some other places. I know you've got a piece of literature in front of you there. What's it saying?
The article is saying that it needs to, it just barely passed. They had a filibuster going. In fact, it only passed by 60 to 37, and they needed the 60 votes to get past the filibuster. So, and the nuclear option did not cover these issues. It only covered the appointments, Mac. Some of your listeners may remember that Harry Reid utilized the nuclear option to try to defang the Republicans who didn't like some of the appointments that Barack Obama was putting on. It did not apply to these type of legislative issues. So it barely passed 60 to 37. I think they picked up 6 Republican votes, but it's got a number of more votes, additional votes in the Senate before it even can be considered by the U.S. House, which, of course, is controlled, as we know, by the Republicans. It shares a much different fate over there. Of course, Obama's weighing in. The idea that, in fact, there was a tweet, get this, Mac, I heard just before I came into the show, tweet from the White House saying that if they did not extend unemployment benefits, that it could cost the U.S. economy 240,000 jobs this next year. Now, I don't understand that connection, and I will tell you this. Here comes Craig. We have seen many times, we counsel, as you know, Mac, one-on-one individual and family counseling on the finances through our office. We have seen instances of people that have come in that are on unemployment, and they are, this is like 96 weeks of unemployment. It didn't used to be past 26 weeks. 1 year was unheard of. We had 26 weeks, which was 6 months worth of unemployment, and now we've got multiple years. Now, it's not just the unemployment that's the issue. There's also a number of other federal entitlements that factor in here, and when the people look at the jobs that they could get at $8, $9, $10 an hour or even more, they can't afford to take those jobs because you're factoring in all the other government entitlements, the food stamps, the rent subsidies, all of the other subsidies that these people are gathering in, and they can't afford to take the jobs. And so, Craig, you just came in, but the hubris of this administration knows no boundaries. While the president flies back from 17 days of vacation in Hawaii, and his birthday present to Michelle is she can stay back on Oprah's plantation back there in Hawaii with her buds, and the payment that he's giving is a first-class ticket that would cost to fly her from Hawaii back to D.C., and that's the reimbursement, when in actuality it's 6 figures of additional cost. One estimate put it one close to $7 million that the American taxpayers have to pay for Barack Obama to become the most vacationed and most golfed. He's played 100 rounds of golf of anybody. But my point that I got away from a little bit ago was these people cannot afford to get off of unemployment and take a regular job. And the White House just tweeted, Craig, that 240,000 jobs could be at risk if they don't extend unemployment benefits, which is a stretch for me. But I'm telling you that people are reflecting back to our counselors that they can't afford. They want to get a job. The jobs are there. But they can't afford to because of this hammock that Obama has expanded in. He didn't create much of it, but he certainly has expanded it so that the dependency. Now, some people, cynical like myself, say this is intentional. He intends to increase the dependency of many of the American people on the federal government so that it expands the social welfare network and will guarantee they will continue to vote for the Democrat candidate. I don't know if you're as cynical as I, but it certainly would appear that that's the case.
I think the administration and really a large part of our government's philosophy is entirely wrong and backwards on this. Our priority should be to get people working again, and it's not. It's to keep everyone happy, really. And so if not working makes you happy, then they're going to do their best to make it possible for you to stay unemployed. I mean, I've watched people that I know go through this, and they game the system. They lose their job, which is traumatic. Mm-hmm. And then they sign up for the benefits, which I don't begrudge them at all. I think that's the first natural step.
Right.
But then it comes to a point where then they start saying, well, this ain't half bad. And the person that I know that went through this, they were at an age where it's going to be very difficult for them to get a job. They're in their 60s, right? But 60s today isn't 60s 20 years ago. No. I mean, these people can be highly productive individuals, but yet then they get a job for a couple weeks, and then, it didn't work out.
Well, they can make more.
But then they can continue on this. And we're talking 96 or however many weeks of unemployment benefits. Yeah. But the thing is we're all paying for this. And it's where these people, they can go get jobs. There's jobs out there for them if they want them, and if they're pushed to go get them. Right now, they're pushed to stay on the couch.
Yeah, exactly right. And there's a mindset that in 6 months you're still wanting to get a job, but after 2 years or more of laying around and making more this way net than you could by going out and getting that $10 an hour job. They don't want to, and it creates a dependency in the mind of many of these people, and it's just human nature. And I think it's a damn shame.
Put your headphones on. We got a caller. Frank, you're live in Mac's World here on 99.3 KTIA. How are you, Frank?
Good. How are you?
Good. I hoped I'd hear from you today. I knew you'd be passionate about this subject.
Well, first of all, didn't we just argue about this in the last budget deal? I mean, this is the first budget we've had in years. And supposedly, a part of this budget deal was that the unemployment benefits were going to stop. So we're already reneging on the budget deal.
Mm-hmm. Well, if you talking we, as in Obama and that administration, I think we've all learned that's their middle name. Well, it's not Hussein, it's renege.
Well, and then the other thing is. Rush made the point here not too long ago today that he's arguing against his own point. If they're saying that extending these benefits are going to create jobs, then by putting money into the economy, then a tax increase on people taking money out of the economy destroys jobs. So he counters his own arguments.
Well, I don't understand this 240,000 jobs potentially being lost that was tweeted out, Frank. Can you? Nobody's explained that to me. Can you explain that line of logic to me?
240,000 jobs lost where?
Well, that was what the White House tweeted out today, that potentially 240,000 jobs will be lost in this country if the unemployment benefits were not extended.
Well, okay.
But that sounds counterintuitive to me.
Well, yeah, but see, Bradshaw makes this same goofy argument that I
Is he still alive?
Yes, he is.
Nancy Pelosi said last year that food stamps and unemployment benefits was the best boost to the economy because people are spending money. Well, aren't people going to buy groceries, turn up the heat if they got a job?
You know what I love? I love it when a liberal makes an argument that trickle-down economics works as long as it's a government handout that's trickling down, not not doing things to help job creators and small business people survive and thrive and grow their businesses. That trickle down is evil. But if it's trickle down from the government purse, then it trickles down just fine. I mean, it's just laughable.
This is trickle down. But what I'm saying, why does the Republicans let them get by with changing the topic? See, Russ suggested just for the Republicans just to take it off the table, say, hey, don't go for 3 months, just put it off to the end of the year, let's get through the election and take it off the table. But I'm saying if they don't, why does the Republicans let them get by with changing the argument? The argument in next November is going to be on Obamacare, and they're trying to shoot a preemptive shot over the bow and change the subject in January and turn it to unemployment benefits.
Sure. I mean, look, the Democrats want to change the topic here, but the media is glad to let them do that because they're kind of, the media looks, well, we've been talking about this Obamacare stuff for a while. And as we watch, the media builds people up and tears them down. Well, they felt like we probably beat up the president enough. So, yeah, let's change the subject a little bit. But this is why, look, I know there's a lot of conservatives who don't like this budget agreement, but the one thing the budget agreement did is let us focus on Obamacare.
That's what we'd hoped.
Let's stop every 3 months. Have a fight about continuing resolutions, which is really a debate among Republicans, not a debate among Republicans and Democrats and independents in this country. So by getting that, by agreeing to something that's not perfect, we're now more focused on Obamacare than I feel like we've ever been.
Well, and Craig, it was said that maybe this is the best deal that we can get. It's not a good deal, but it's the best deal we can get. Now let's focus on this. And one of the things that I think we cannot take our eyes off of, there are a number of issues that need to be vetted out in areas of hearings in the House side. The Benghazi, the IRS, the NSA. There's some others, the gun running that Holder was involved with. There's a number of things that need to be put out and make sure that we keep the pressure on them from that standpoint. And you're right. I don't think we need to be fighting a defensive. We need to be fighting an offensive war. You don't win with defense, you win with offense. And I think we need to take the offense. And the Benghazi thing in particular, I don't think that we can pass up that opportunity to expose Hillary for her involvement in that either.
The New York Times washed her clean.
Well,
it's like the blood of Jesus came and just, you are okay.
But even the media didn't buy into that. That was so full of holes that they didn't even buy into that.
What's going to change in 3 months? When 3 months rolls around, they're going to be right back at this again, and they're going to be saying, well, look, aren't you guys compassionate? Can't we extend these another 3 months? Krauthammer said, I agree with Krauthammer 90% of the time. But Charles Krauthammer said, go ahead and do it, but try to make it so that there's some end date so that it doesn't become an entitlement. But it's been an ongoing entitlement for years. They keep extending it and extending it and extending it. When is the end date?
If I was a member of Congress or in the United States Senate, I'd have one rule. It's the no kick the can down the road. I mean, Tom, in your business, people who get in trouble financially, the problem is when you start kicking the can down the road. I'd say, look, I'm not for any 3 month fixes. Let's fix the problem. Let's do something long term so we can start heading in the right direction instead of a 3 month kick the can down the road type strategy is only a political solution. It is not an actual solution to the problem we actually face.
Well, it just befuddles me that the Republicans keep falling for this trick. I mean, this is
the problem is Republicans don't have any control over the agenda.
I understand, but I'm saying that Obama has got Republicans replying to this stuff. If I was the Republicans, I would totally ignore it. Let him go out there and say, oh, well, it's compassionate to do this, do this, do this. Why is the Republicans even responding and letting him set the agenda? How about the Republicans getting out for a change and setting the agenda?
All right, Frank, I appreciate you calling in.
Welcome.
The voice is always welcome here in Mac's World. Frank's got a good point. I mean, why are the Republicans playing the game of politics? It seems that all of us are kind of like behind the big curtain of the wizard, and we're just falling for it time after time after time.
It's because there's been a Democrat in office in the presidency, and before that, there's been a Democrat control the United States Senate, and before that, control the U.S. House. We do not control the agenda, which is why we have to we're subject to whatever they're doing.
They're reacting to some degree. Well,
Craig Robinson from the Iowa Republican is here, and we'll continue with him and Tom Coates live here on Max World on 99.3 KTIA, Iowa.
There are countless numbers of people struggling with addiction and other life-controlling issues. Probably someone you know and love. There is a way out. There is hope. Transformations Treatment Center in Delray Beach, Florida, has a unique approach to substance abuse treatment. Call now and ask about our Guaranteed Success program or log on to transformationstreatment.com. Transformations. Change your life. Change your relationships. Transform your world.
Yes, now your favorite programs on Webcast One Live can all be watched and listened to on any Android or Apple device. Your phone, tablet, or iPad. Yes, your favorite shows on Webcast One Live are available live or on podcast wherever you go. Let me introduce to you some of our great shows.
Shalom! Every week on Understanding the World with Rabbi David Kaufman, we'll talk about issues in the Middle East, issues related to the Jewish tradition and religious traditions in general, and keep you up to date on exactly what's going on around the world. You may know some of the story, but you haven't heard all of the story until you've heard it on Understanding the World with Rabbi David Kaufman and our special guests we have on every week.
Hey, this is Doc with Doc and Lefty. I want to tell you about our brand new time slot. It's from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. It's on the same night, Tuesdays. We now follow Ed Fallon and the Fallon Forum on webcast1live.com. I want to tell you a little bit about our show. Our show is focused on local, state, and national, and sometimes international politics. We like to keep people updated and informed. We also have very interesting guests. So please join us every Tuesday from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. on webcast1live.com.
So when you want to watch your favorite Webcast One program, remember, there's an app for that. You know, there's an app for that.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Get away from us, you mean old credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray! We're saved! Consumer Credit! You're our hero!
It's 21 minutes after the hour on the 7th day of January in the Lord's year 2014 at 1:07 today. It was the 7th of January at 1:07, and it was 17 below zero. Just to let you know. Before we get into the news I've got breaking news here.
Okay.
Unbelievable. The Iowa State Fair will not let you use cash at the fair any longer.
What do you mean?
You will have to go to a specified booth. There will be 50 of them around the fairgrounds. You will buy tickets for whatever you want to buy.
They are going to kill the Iowa State Fair.
Whether it be beverage or food or whatever, and then you'll take those tickets and you'll take those to the food vendors or whatever it is.
It'll kill the fair. You know, they do this on RAGBRAI. When RAGBRAI is coming through your town, they tell the communities, hey, this is how you do it, and you should do tickets and all that stuff. And so when RAGBRAI came through, when I was living in Brooklyn, Iowa, they came through. We were just a mid-afternoon stop and convinced the town to do this tickets. And I said, look, have you ever talked to a rider? Because I'll tell you what, I have. I mean, I've had family ride, and they said, we bypass towns that do this ticket operation because we don't want to be because if I only spend 5 tickets and I have 6 in my pocket,
right.
I'm losing money.
And that's
Okay.
what the fair's counting on.
So then, I'm doing a little pie booth for the Methodist church in town. And so these riders would come up. I felt bad for them. And they said, well, I don't want to buy any tickets. And I said, well, I'll sell you pie for cash. Why not? It's America.
Yeah.
And so the little lady stomped across the yard. She's like, are you selling pie for cash? And I said, you betcha I am. It's America. She got all mad. She's like, well, you can't do that. And I said, if you want to do a full accounting of the Methodist church box at the end of the day, have at it. I mean, we're not in it's not in our interest to, get one over on the town.
Right.
But I mean, this is going to kill the fair. It's already hard enough to pay, and then I hate it.
Well, and they quote here that in different states that have done this very same thing, and that sales go up. Well, of course they go up, because what happens now is every vendor has to record every single dollar's worth of sales.
Well, it's very anti-capitalism, because what it does is it puts the power in the state fair organization to audit because for those businesses to get paid, they have to come and give them their tickets to get their cash at the end of the night before they do their deposit. And so this is how they know how much you're making.
You must
and
be
how
going to
much
round
all
up to the nearest dollar too, huh?
Well, exactly. No, this is a really bad deal.
Oh, I don't like.
Deal.
I'm sorry to hear that, Mac.
Yeah, I think it ruins
my
it.
stint at the fair may be coming to an end then.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like you. I go to these places where you have to buy tickets, and invariably you walk away with tickets in your pocket.
Right.
And the business loves it, because you just bought $6 worth of tickets and you bought $5.25. That's 75 cents. Now, last time I looked, that's about what, 11%, Tom?
Well, I went
Increase?
I went to the Casting Crowns concert at the State Fair last year, and so I had to stand in line to buy tickets so that I could go stand in line at the concession stand. And I'm sitting there doing the math like, hey, all I want's a bottle of water, maybe some popcorn. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, well, I bought $11 worth of tickets, so I guess I'll do 2 waters and a bigger popcorn than I need, because I don't want leftovers.
Right.
And so you're not, look, we live in the world of iPods and freedom, and I mean, I don't have to buy an entire CD of music anymore. I can buy one song, and yet we have these government institutions, which the State Fair really is. They come and say, no, you don't want choice, Craig.
Right.
You want to go buy tickets so that you can buy other stuff. It's just a joke.
Well,
Make a good point.
You'd think they'd team with like a MasterCard or Visa, so it would be on a card. So if for some reason you didn't spend all the money at the fair, you still had that $1.17 left on the card. But
Right.
that doesn't work in their favor.
You could preload it and not load it.
I don't know. I'm not a big fair guy anymore. I know, Tom, you're out there
Well-
usually 11 or 12 days of the fair.
Yeah,
And,
set up and take down, and they're nearly every day. And I'm sorry to hear this, because I think it'll hurt the vendors. It'll hurt the attendance. The people won't like it. It will give them better control, just like we were talking about the control of the federal government, making people kowtow to them. I think it'll accomplish that. But I think their $1 million+ annual attendance will be cut, and their vendors will be hurt, because some of those vendors count on making money there, and probably all the sales don't get reported. But it's going to be a bad deal. Let's move on to what I think your listeners may not think much about, but I think it is arguably the impending dark cloud on our horizon. That comes with the voting and the appointment of Janet Yellen yesterday in the U.S. Senate as the next Federal Reserve Chair. Some of your listeners remember that we go back to a giant of a man, Paul Volcker, who saved the country when we were going through the hyperinflation of the 70s. Went to Greenspan, who was a gigantic disappointment to us. Supposedly a hard money guy. He was an Ayn Rand fan who sold out to the lure of power and fame, and typical human nature story. Ben Bernanke came in with a lot of fanfare, was arguably the most educated man on the areas of the Depression in the 30s. He's been a disappointment, and now we've got Janet Yellen, who most of us expect even less from. Our own Chuck Grassley voted no on her vote yesterday, and then articulated the proper, in my judgment, position on why he voted no. He said the the quantitative easing, which has been going on now for years, just recently cut back from 85 to 75 billion a month, which means they create that much money out of thin air. You want to know why the stock market continues to make new record highs almost on a daily basis? You have to look no further than the 85, now 75 billion a month in quantitative easing, in some cases being mainlined right into the stock market. He says that is going to have ultimate disastrous consequences. He's absolutely right, and he likened it to the 70s, going back to when Paul Volcker came in. For those of you old enough to remember, as I can, what was happening back in the 70s was we went through a hyperinflation after tremendous stimulus in this economy, and the results of very high interest rates. Mac, I was telling Craig off the air, when I was a young man moving down to Midland, Texas in 1981, I had a first mortgage down there at 18.75% interest.
Yeah.
Now, you take, with all the borrowed money we've got in this country, you take a higher rate of interest like we had under Paul Volcker, and that's how Paul Volcker squeezed the inflation out. He allowed the market to rise to the level that the interest rates took the proper penalty. And if we had allowed this economy, short of TARP, I would have done TARP, but after the 2008 crash, to find its own level, we wouldn't have had all this problem. But we've created trillions of dollars in debt to try to put off the inevitable deflation vortex that's been going on anyway. And we're going to have to suffer the consequence. That's why a lot of people are still saying gold and silver have been in the doldrums for years. Eventually, as barometers of inflation, they take off. Now, whether that's this year, next year, the year after, I'm not smart enough to know, but I know at some point, supply-demand evens out, and trillions of dollars in debt, artificially created with the Federal Reserve and the Treasury, have consequences, and Yellen does not appear to be the person to take the kind of Paul Volcker control that we're going to need. So I raise that as an issue because I think it's an important one. Many people won't pay much attention to it until the economy comes crashing down with this big blow-up eventually, and then they will say, what happened? Well, this is the kind of thing that's happening right now.
Thoughts, Mr. Robinson?
Well, I think, a political thought is just on Grassley, where, I think a lot of people kind of grow, tired of politicians who have been in office for a long time. But, Grassley is a really good person for us, and not just speaking as Republicans, but is a great elected official for us.
That's why he gets so many Democrat votes, right?
Whose voting record is just like, you look at it, and I mean, he went through a little stage maybe in the early 2000s that I disagree with. But I mean, by and large, I mean, this guy nails it time after time after time in terms of his voting and in terms of the things that he's working for and rooting out corruption in D.C. An excellent U.S. Senator that I think that sometimes is very underappreciated in the state of Iowa.
Yeah, we're going to miss him when he decides to go out and unless he's going to pull a bird on us and hang around till he's 101.
Well, he might, because he says he's going to run for re-election in 2016, doesn't he, Craig?
Yeah, I don't doubt
He's already declared that he wants to run for re-election in 2016. He's in great shape. He goes out and jogs. He might make it. And at this point, I don't see much diminished capacity on his part.
Oh, no. He seems to be just fine there. All right. Craig Robinson from the Iowa Republican. Before we get into some of the obvious races with Latham and Harkin and all that stepping out, what's going on that we don't know about? What are some of the stuff going on in politics that,
I would say that it's the mad scramble. If you want, there's no such thing as the smoke-filled back rooms anymore in politics, but there are an awful lot of conversations that take place between different groups of people who are very interested in politics. And so the mad scramble is who's running for Congress. There's discussions out there of who on earth are Republicans going to get to run for the Secretary of State's office. There's a lot of positioning going on and a lot of concern in terms of, these are kind of late forming primaries because we didn't expect them to be there. And so there's a lot of talk going on, and I think the governor would like to operate things one way, and other people say, no, this is kind of how we got to do it. And look, there's a lot of conversations going on in the state that I think are going to influence what the ballot looks like in November.
It is a very unsettling time out there for all of us who are sitting on the voter side. For you in the middle, you're the lucky cat. Tom and I are lucky in a way. We do this one day a week. You do it every day now. But it just seems that more and more Republicans, and I'm gonna use that word instead of conservatives, Republicans are shying away from that label, from that name, because they'll say I'm conservative. But when you get to be a Republican, you're now a right-wing Christian Tea Party, zero social conscious, want to cut the budget no matter what you do, and gays can't get married and stop killing children.
Well, I don't necessarily know if I agree with you on that. I think for a long time there's been a growing movement, I'd say, for the last 10 years of people who don't want to identify themselves as Republicans because they're not conservative enough. And so I think that we've seen that, and now I think that now you have more mainstream Republicans who kind of shy away from being labeled anything else. They don't want a qualifier on top of it. I'm a good Republican versus I'm a Tea Party Republican, or I'm one of those right-wing conservatives. And I mean, it's just the media has found so many different ways to describe, a Republican. And look, I mean, that part, look, Democrats, I think it is a good label because by and large they march in lockstep together. But Republicans, it's all a bunch of little factions, and together we make the Republican movement. So kind of hard to put your finger on.
We'll take our next break, and when we come back, I want to get Tom's comment on that, because I would imagine you still consider yourself a Republican.
Yes. Yeah. In fact, I voted. We had a special election in Norwalk today for the House seat vacated by Julian Garrett, and I proudly put Republican on my ballot. I said, well, that's an option. I said, I'm not ashamed of it. I put it on there.
What's going on with the Latham seat in Congress and Harkin seat in the Senate? There is a scrambling of all kinds of folks across the state, a gaggle of them, thinking they're going to get their name on the ballot. Who will you vote for? We'll get Craig's opinion next, live here on Max World on 99.3 KTIA.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershide.
I'm administrative manager.
I'm the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
If we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's your home.
It's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're gonna do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's gonna be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're gonna do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you gonna say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're gonna be listening. They're gonna wanna know what your challenges are. Then they're gonna come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave. and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me, but is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though. I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm going to take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
enough said.
.22 before the top. Salem Radio Network News at 4, and then Michael Mudloff with True Blue. Tom Coates and Craig Robinson from the Iowa Well, Tom Coates isn't with the Iowa Republican. Tom Coates
can be if he wants.
Tom Coates is
Maybe I could become an associate, Mac.
You could.
I could.
Why couldn't you be a contributing?
Sure.
What do they call that?
He could have a column.
Yeah.
Money Talks.
I could be
Money Talks.
Be an associate contributor over
Contributor. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Dace is on MSNBC. You might as well. You know, there's a place for you. I could write a column. What could I write a column on?
You could write a column on faith.
I could.
You could.
I'd love to.
Yeah, I'd love to have it.
We're starting a. This is totally off the subject, but tomorrow is a real blessing come true for me. I've been mentoring with Pastor Richard at our church. I don't know if you know Richard, but he's just amazing. He's been mentoring me, and tomorrow we start a year-long men's Bible study of the book of Romans.
Really?
And we're just going to unpack that baby. I mean, if we don't get past one verse in a day, that's fine. And we're going to start by talking about Paul. So I've been studying Paul and listening to every movie and reading every book, and I don't like to read, but this I'm just like starving for. And this Paul dude, let me tell you something. Yeah. If you look at Paul from 5,000 feet, it was obvious that God chose him from the moment he was old enough to whistle to be the guy that carries Christ's message through the Gospels. He's just incredible. What a guy. You know, I asked Richard this, and he said he could verify this. He thought this was a true statement. What Saul was to Christians, Osama bin Laden was to America in the last 15 years, 20 years. Just the absolute worst guy in the world that we wanted to run into.
Yeah.
Anyway,
so then if you turned Osama into becoming the cheerleader for America, you'd have the same kind of reaction that some of them had towards Paul.
Yeah, what if Osama bin Laden, and I know he's passed away now, or supposedly, but what if he was still alive and he got on BBC or MSNBC or whoever it is and said, I was wrong. America is the way. European way is the way to go. Capitalism is the way to go. You know, wow. Anyway, so I'll expect your associate contributing role, and I'll expect to see credit cards cut up. Have you ever been to his office?
No.
He's got two huge, what are they? They're like 5-gallon, or I mean probably 25-gallon.
Well, I don't know. They're big.
Are they
We've got,
Yeah, and they're all cut up with credit cards.
Yeah, 20,000 credit cards cut up in them, you know, that kind of thing.
Now, little do people know, in the back, Tom's got one of those little plastic heating guns, and he puts them back together. Yeah, and slides them through. He buys cigars and things like that.
I've got my humidor there too, don't I, Mac?
Yes, you do. That's right. All right, Craig Robinson from the Iowa Republican here, along with we got to identify Ryan in there producing for us today. We always appreciate Ryan's good work. Scale of 1 to 10. 1 being it's just another election cycle, and 10 being something that will impact more than 2 generations. The Latham change.
Oh, that's how you're going to ask it. The Latham change, I'd say a 7.
Okay, big, but just big.
If you put together, I thought you were going to ask me to rate the entire election cycle in Iowa.
Okay, go ahead.
I'd say a 12.
The Latham deal.
Not
No.
Latham.
Just what's going on in Iowa.
U.S. Senate, 2 open house seats. the legislature, the governor, all that stuff. You put it all together, what's going on in Iowa this year, I put it at a 12. You asked me about one race, 7. It's pretty darn important. But it's just one congressional seat.
Craig, we had a discussion some weeks ago. I believe it was you and I, and you put the chances of us recapturing the Iowa Senate at very low odds. Do you still feel that way, despite the potential impact of Obamacare?
Well, I guess I guess I would change my mind a little bit on that.
Okay.
The reason is as this election is starting to take shape, I'm a big believer in the strength of a ballot, okay, from top to bottom. How good is it? And when I look at the Democrat ballot that is led by Bruce Braley and is, kind of co-chaired by Jack Hatch. Okay. And then in Des Moines, the biggest city, we're going to have Stacey Apple. I mean, you're talking...
Is that a given, or can they push her aside? Because some people are trying to push her out now. She was a sacrificial.
It is not a given, but I think it is a likelihood.
But she was a sacrificial lamb going up in front of Latham, and they were happy to let her be that.
She is not a sacrificial lamb anymore.
No, not line longer. If they let her stay put.
My opinion of Stacey Apple changed completely when I looked at her first fundraising filing, where she raised $230,000. And the thing is you got to remember she's participating in a Democrat primary where they're liberals, okay, that are going to vote. And I think that, maybe if a Matt McCoy gets in this race and primaries her, I think they would go with McCoy. Mm-hmm. But if it's Andy McGuire or someone like that, I think they're going to stick with Stacey because she's one of them.
Well, and she is one of them. Her husband's on the Iowa Supreme Court, Brent Apple.
She's wealthy.
She's wealthy. Her last item on her resume, though, is a defeat in the Iowa Senate to Kent Sorensen. That doesn't look particularly good.
Well, but, if we're looking at this thing from 5,000 feet, Ken Sorensen was the wrong guy.
Well, I know, but I mean, she lost to Sorensen.
Right. But look, I mean, I don't think Democrats really bother themselves with all of that. I mean, I think there's a good likelihood because you got to remember she received a gift when Latham retired. She was in the race. That means money could easily flow. The Democrats are going to react to that news, and I think
there'll be some outside money now. Before there wouldn't have been much outside money.
That's my point. There was already outside money. She's endorsed by Emily's List. She's the liberal groups were already going to play in this race a little bit, probably because they thought it was just kind of good for Braley and all that too.
Yeah.
It kind of helps ticket. Well, now the Democrats have this extremely liberal ballot from top to bottom. Even if they beat her, it's going to be a lock stock liberal in there anyway. Mm-hmm. I don't see a centrist Democrat winning a primary there.
Right.
And I think that is a problem for Iowa Democrats. And I think this election cycle is really shaping up pretty well with Republicans. We got to get through our primaries and everything. But I think the Senate is going to be tough, but I can look, when you got a guy like Terry Branstad on the ballot who appeals to a lot of people, and like I understand he angers some conservatives, but he has wide appeal. And if we have a Senate candidate who has wide appeal, it's only going to help us even further. And then,
who's going to be the Senate?
I said if we have a Senate candidate.
Who would be your best choice to help that top of that ticket? Because this is a big deal. I've seen a lot of graphics. If there's any hope of recapturing the U.S. Senate, Iowa has to be part of that mix. So there's going to be a lot of outside money here. Who is our best candidate at this point in your mind?
Well, I think it kind of depends what you want. I think, from an outsider's perspective, I think Branstad somewhat agrees with this. I think that there's a segment of Iowa voters, Republicans, who think that adding a woman on the top of the ballot would be good. I'm not really in that camp. I'll tell you what I want. I want a candidate who can go toe-to-toe with Bruce Braley. I think that is the most important thing. I like all these candidates in this race.
Shaban?
He's insignificant. Nice enough guy, but I want Bruce Braley is going to have millions of dollars. Right. And if you don't put up someone against him who can actually message against him and go toe-to-toe in terms of spending, then Bruce Braley gets to spend 6 months lying about his own record and his opponent.
You've
Now,
got to
do you
define
want that?
him. You've got to define
We
him, and
have
I
to
agree
define
with
him,
you.
and the only way we define him is if we have a candidate that can go toe-to-toe.
All right, and who is that person? Let's come back around to my
when you
question.
start then I think you're looking at, and we haven't seen his first fundraising report yet, and so I think a guy like Mark Jacobs has shown the ability to spend money in this race, and probably raise money with good connections in other places.
Well, he
across
certainly
the
has.
country.
County put the endorsement
absolutely.
yesterday for him, but
Where have you seen a Mark Jacobs ad?
I've seen it on TV. I've seen it on radio. I mean, I've heard it on radio.
And I've seen it online as too. I've seen
Online.
it right.
He's on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So when you in Iowa bring up a YouTube, no matter what it is, that's the commercial that plays.
All right, he's got a lot of money. He's hired Doug Gross. He's done some things. I want to talk further about this whole candidacy.
Yeah, we're coming back live with Craig Robinson from the Iowa Republican here on KTIA, Iowa.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places. Especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart, and it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent you.
All across America, there are countless numbers of people struggling with addiction and other life-controlling issues. Probably someone you know and love. There is a way out. There is hope. Transformations Treatment Center in Delray Beach, Florida, has a unique approach to substance abuse treatment. Call now and ask about our Guaranteed Success program or log on to transformationstreatment.com. Transformations. Change your life. Change your relationships. Transform your world.
Before the top of the hour, Salem Radio Network News, and then Michael Mudloff with True Blue. Let's jump right back in. Mark Jacobs, he's running ads everywhere, but I don't ever see him anywhere.
And that's going to be my question back to Craig. We see a lot of radio, TV, online ads for him.
If you see radio ads, then I need to talk to you.
You go on their line and probably see them. I have real questions, especially here in Iowa, Craig. I could see this in some of the bigger states that aren't as closely connected to the grassroots as Iowa is. But we of all states are the most closely connected because of our caucus status in the country to wanting to get the people where they're willing to engage and engage repeatedly so we get to know them. My question is, I think Jacobs is trying to buy this nomination and then go up against Bruce Braley. I'm not sure that the grassroots that will vote here, by and large, are willing to settle for somebody that comes in with a lot of money to buy the campaign. Sure. They want to see and make sure he's the real deal before they put him up against Bruce Braley. That's my thinking.
And so you have to, I understand where that criticism comes from, but this is a guy who's already done a 26 to 30 some city tour of the state where he's held events where he can go, you can go interact with them, town hall meetings, that sort of thing. He's participated in issue forums. I know there was a Jewish forum up in Sioux City. He was there with the other candidates. There was, I don't know if it was a debate or however you would call it, but with the Renewable Fuels Association. He's out there and he is doing things. Now, the one area that, he hasn't been doing stuff is a lot of radio interviews, but frankly, that's the same strategy that Branstad took in 2010. I don't think Branstad ever went on the radio with Jan Michelson. I don't think he
was on
we
here.
Know, yeah, well, yeah, right. But I mean, did he? I don't know who was on the radio. Dace was probably gone by then. But,
yeah, Dace
well,
was
he
gone.
wouldn't have come on with Dace.
Right. I mean, that's my point.
Yeah.
So,
but he makes
has to
himself
find
available.
a way to engage.
He does the Meet Governor Branstad show once a month
Sure.
on WHO, and I think there's a suspicion out here that he's kind of ducking and dodging a little bit from the type of questions that Jan Michelson or Simon Conway or some of the other people might subject him to.
But whose questions are more important?
Well,
are Jan Michelson's questions more important, or because I believe truly that the best thing you can do is go to local.
Well, sure, and I think they will do that.
And meet with local people and have them ask questions, because sometimes you run into a radio show host that is really he's going to steer you in some weird places. Look,
all right,
I like Jan Michelson, but I've seen him do it.
I don't think money ultimately becomes the issue, because I think whoever becomes the nominee, there's going to be a lot of money from inside and outside the state.
I completely disagree with you.
Fly in here, because they will be trying to capture this seat.
Doesn't work that way.
All right.
You have, I mean, look, money will come in from out of state, but you have to put yourself in a position to win in order for outside forces to make an investment.
Okay, so you mentioned Jacobs, you mentioned Joni Ernst. Who else is on that?
I really think there are two candidates who feel really good about how they ended up 2013. And I think one is Jacobs. He's obviously, and I think it's because of his spending. He's been on TV, radio, all that stuff. I think he feels good about that. The other candidate who I think feels pretty good about where he sits today is Sam Clovis, who's running the completely opposite style campaign of Mark Jacobs, where they're organizing at precinct levels. If there is a debate or forum anywhere in this state, he's there. And so he's really putting together a strong grassroots organization. The candidates who, look, Matt Whitaker and Joni Ernst are kind of between a rock and a hard place, because they got in this race and I think they kind of believed that they were the candidates who were going to raise money and put together a real campaign. But now you got Jacobs out there who is raising money and spending money, and is going to, frankly, probably spend more money than they're ever going to raise. And then I think the mistake they made is they never organized to the extent that Clovis is. And so I think Sam Clovis feels very good about where he stands today.
What about Whitaker?
I think, look, Matt Whitaker, when he's on and when he's campaigning, is an absolute fantastic candidate. He's good on the stump.
Sure,
but there's not a lot of consistency there, and we already saw in his last fundraising report where he's loaning his campaign money. And so the question is how much can he do of that? He's going. I mean, he raised $50,000. I mean, he raised the lowest amount of money of any candidate, even Clovis, in the last reporting period, and he loaned himself $50,000. And so he has to show the ability to kind of break loose and look, he's the guy with the best poll numbers. I mean, it's all not that much different, but he polls better than everyone else. But he has to be able to go out and kind of take the race by the horns and win it. And I'm not seeing that from him.
I don't know if we're talking about the same race or not, because it's unknown. But you've got Brad Zahn out here, who is getting ready to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what it is. I don't know if Tom does. I don't think you do, or do you?
Well, I think everyone assumes that Brad is going to make another run for the 3rd District congressional seat.
So for Latham's seat.
Correct.
And who will he be up against?
He's going to be up against, we know for sure, David Young, who was running for the Senate, who switched to run for Congress. I'm 99% sure he'll be running against Matt Schultz, Secretary of State.
Okay.
And in the paper the other day, Robert Kramer, a businessman in town, also mentioned
he's serious about it?
He's 90% in. So
Okay.
I think that, look, it could be a 5-way primary.
That's as crowded as the U.S. Senate
You
seat
betcha.
race is.
It's more crowded. There's only 4.
Who do you like there?
Boy, that one's tough. I'm going to give the edge. I got to qualify it. I think the edge goes to Schultz, because I think he fits in well with grassroots activists, and he has good name ID. It's not all positive name ID.
Yeah.
You cannot overlook Zahn in terms of his performance in Polk County. is a major influence. But the thing with Zahn is that his last congressional race didn't end up well. I
Nope.
mean, it was a phenomenal Republican year, but Brad Zahn spent the entire general election campaign on his heels, defending himself from attacks from Boswell.
But
and I
know-
don't see how those attacks don't happen again.
But there were two reasons for that. One was that he was advised not to respond, even though people like myself, who was on his finance committee, and Brad Payton, who passed away this last year, said, get out there and answer these. He was told by his campaign people not to. Now he's talking about, what's the guy's name in D.C., Rollins.
Yeah.
Ed Rollins coming in, run a different kind of campaign. He didn't have any money either. Now, part of the reason he didn't have any money is that the establishment here and outside knew that that his and Latham seats were going to bump heads, and they didn't want a up-and-coming Republican run against Latham.
Well, I think that's been talked about, but I don't necessarily think there is a lot of truth to that.
Well, they didn't give him any money. I mean,
is there a list of people who are required to give money to
Well,
congressional
they
candidates?
didn't. They would normally have, because they could see that coming to a head 2 years down the
It
road.
doesn't help when you're getting beat up and on your heels.
Craig, as always, appreciate you being here. Tom, I'll look for your contributing blog to the Iowa Republican. I'm J. Michael McCoy. Right place he's in for tomorrow. I'll see you Friday with a special treat of music and worship live on The View from a Pew here on KTIA, Iowa. Until I see you again, stay warm and pray.